One question that a lot of boxing fans have been asking recently, obviously, like one of the best fighters that Britain has ever produced is obviously Joe Calzaghe, and one of the best fighters that America has ever produced is Andre Ward. Now, imagine if both of them were to fight each other at super middleweight, who would have won that particular fight? It's a very interesting fight because both fighters were incredibly skilled. Obviously, Andre Ward was more of a conventional fighter. He was orthodox, very technically gifted. One of the things that Andre Ward had going for him that wasn't common. Like, if you look at most boxers are either inside fighters or they're outside fighters. They either fight well on the back foot with lateral movement, or they're boxer punchers, or they're inside fighters where they're coming close and they know how to smother and open up their opponents with left hooks, and they're more square on and pressure fighters. Andre Ward was an outboxer, was a slick fighter, but he was a fighter that had the ability to fight on the inside, which made him very lethal. If you look at the way he smothered Alan Green in their fight, it was very incredible. If you look at what he done to Carl Froch, that was incredible. And he had this ability to fight on the outside and the inside equally proficiently, and it was one of them things that was quite different. When you look at him as a fighter, he was never seen as a fighter that for some reason nobody actually respected his inside fighting ability when he actually had it. No one actually looked at him and thought, you know what, this guy could fight really well on the inside. They just assumed that he was just this boxer puncher who did have boxing skills, but he wasn't an inside fighter. But then he went in there with the likes of he went in there with the likes of Carl Froch, who was known to be a decent inside fighter, and he completely dominated him on the inside. If you look at a fighter like Calzaghe was quite similar in a sense. I think in terms of athleticism, Calzaghe was a lot more gifted than Andre Ward. He had faster hands. He had more flair with his style. Like, he would fight with his hands low, his reflexes. He just had a lot more going for him in terms of like his reflexes, his hand speed, just everything. If you put everything into account in terms of pure athleticism, I don't think it's even close. I think Joe Calzaghe was way more athletically gifted than Andre Ward could ever dream of being. But Andre Ward actually made up for that with his technical gifts of actually his movement, his inside fighting ability, his just his proficiency on the inside, the way he moves. He just had that ability to fight on the inside. Now, one reason why I think Andre Ward would have beaten Calzaghe is if you look at their fight with if you look at Calzaghe's fight with Bernard Hopkins, in my opinion, I thought he actually won that fight. And I think the reason why they gave it to him was they're trying to set up a super fight with Roy Jones Jr., which actually happened afterwards. So in my opinion, I actually think Bernard Hopkins actually beat. Obviously, it's contestable; it's a close fight, but in my opinion, I think Joe Calzaghe lost to Bernard Hopkins. I thought Bernard Hopkins beat Joe Calzaghe when they fought. I thought he destroyed him on the outside, and then in the inside he completely opened him up. And I feel like Andre Ward in his prime would have employed similar strategies. He would have destroyed him on the outside with right hands, and then in the inside he would have smothered him, and it would have completely broken off his rhythm. So whenever he came inside, he would actually clinch him, so he wouldn't be able to throw his punches. And whenever he fought on the outside, he would just outbox him and just outslick him. And I think because of that reason, I think Andre Ward would have beaten Calzaghe. Now, I think it would have been a close fight, and Calzaghe is actually famous for making adjustments. But if you look at Andre Ward, I think Andre Ward is equally proficient at making adjustments on the fly. I mean, he'd done it for several of his fights. He would make adjustments on the fly and he would fight. I think it would be a fairly dirty fight, and I think there might be a few headbutts in between. But I just think Andre Ward, with his technical ability, I look at him as like a Bernard Hopkins 2.0. Like, he's like Bernard Hopkins, but just better. That's how I look at Andre Ward. I think Andre Ward is that type of guy. Like, he is like Bernard Hopkins in a sense, like his technical ability, but I think he's just a little bit better than Hopkins. I think Hopkins has accomplished more in his career, but in terms of just purely their fighting style, I think Andre Ward is like a Bernard Hopkins 2.0, and I feel like if Calzaghe struggled against Hopkins, I think with Andre Ward would have completely destroyed him. But yeah, that's just my opinion. What's your opinion? Maybe you think Calzaghe will beat Ward. I think it'll be a very close fight, but I think Andre Ward will just edge it out. I mean, if you look at their common opponents, one of their common opponents, like if you look at Calzaghe was given a lot of credit for beating Mikhail Kessler. But Mikhail Kessler, when he fought Andre Ward totally destroyed him. Like he completely whitewashed him and made it look easy. So I just think Andre Ward's on another level to Calzaghe, and I think he's accomplished more in his career as well. That's just my personal opinion. So yeah, that's my personal opinion. What's your opinion? Who do you think would have won in a fight between Andre Ward and Calzaghe? I think it would have been a very close fight, but I think Andre Ward would have beaten him. But that's just my personal opinion. Tell me your personal opinion below, and like and subscribe to the channel. I've got a lot more content coming your way. Peace out.